Welcome to our series, The Battle for Public Education in the 21st Century. I'm Ken Yale, education correspondent for Flashpoints on Pacifica Radio.
Yeah, feel this from the bottom of my heart, y'all. Truly inspired. Here we go, come on, look, yo, just teaching to the test, forced by the feds, or they losing that check. Too many children left behind by this corporate assembly line. How they privatize education is a human right, and they kids gonna be fine. They send them to private schools, while ours get sent to prison or given a job serving fast food.
We've listened in on several social justice classrooms in previous shows. Today we'll discover what it's like when social justice grounds the entire school. This is the first of two programs entitled Beyond the Poverty of Imagination. We begin with Dr. Derek Smith. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Education at the University of San Francisco, and he's the former co-director of the June Jordan School for Equity in San Francisco. We join Derek Smith as he explores some of the essential features of any social justice school.
If you come into a school or a classroom in which someone is advocating for or practicing in, really, a social justice educational model or pedagogy, what you should see are a few critical things. You should see curriculum that is rooted in the idea that every concept, every fact, every method, every point of analysis should somehow be rooted back to that student's communal experience, either present day or historically. This is not some idea to where you have to have black teachers teaching black kids. This is an educational thing. You're taking time to say what is happening and what has happened in this community. And my subject matter is not a subject matter that is located solely in the academy. It's a subject about the world. It's not that difficult then to bring upper division collegiate level material to 9th and 10th grade students in an urban inner city or historically oppressed environment if the relevance is there. The second piece is the social behavioral disciplinary environment. You cannot claim to have a school interested in social justice if students are allowed to degrade, dehumanize, assault either verbally or physically or otherwise, electronically, in your school. So what you should be able to see is a focused classroom, not micromanaged in terms of their movement, but a focused, engaged classroom, a respectful classroom, hallway, lunch area, recess area, a space perhaps of atonement and apology. So yeah, you're a kid and we're adults. We're all going to make mistakes. Is this a school where atonement and apologies are expected? So if you come in, you see those things, a very respectful environment, not a fearful environment, not a micromanaged, controlled environment where I'm controlling the movement of students every second, but a respectful environment, plus an environment that has high intellectual expectations of its students and staff, a high set of expectations for the complexity and the relevance of the content provided. I think if you can have those combinations, you'll have a pretty solid school with a social justice emphasis.
Now let's go inside the school where Dr. Derek Smith was co-director, the June Jordan School for Equity in San Francisco. Teacher Giulio Soro is preparing his class for one of the most important days of the school year. Instead of Thanksgiving, June Jordan is celebrating what they call Gratitude Day. Let's listen in.
Why don't we celebrate quote-unquote Thanksgiving Day?
Oh, it's like when the people from Europe or Spain came and they said like we're friendly, but they weren't. They killed like a lot of people, and then they did like really bad stuff to the native people.
We don't want to celebrate a day that represents killing of people. So we're going to call it Gratitude Day. As a community, what are we grateful for here at June Jordan?
Our school and our environment that we are in, because it's different than most schools. Everybody knows each other. Yeah, like I have conversations with everybody, going from like the janitor down to like the lunch lady. Like I'll talk to everybody.
At other schools, it's more clicked up and everybody do their own thing. Like, yes. And at this school, everybody, well, from what I've seen, everybody gets along.
Teachers can focus on the students, like helping them with their college and all that.
But that's one thing I will say, that we're always helping. And we're trying to help you. You can't say that everywhere, because a lot of schools are set up, if you don't get it, that's your fault. You're dumb. You either get it or don't.
Teachers actually care about the student.
A place where you could actually open your eyes and see what's going on outside. You learn about reality at the same time while you learn about learning.
They don't teach us just like how things are, they teach us the reason why they are.
It's not really about what you know, it's how you know it.
I'm grateful for working at June Jordan because the teachers could be a full human being. They're not just teachers teaching something. I can talk to Danny in a real way, or Lamont, or Dominique, all of you.
June Jordan's current co-directors are Matt Alexander and Jessica Wong. We catch up with them as they describe the founding of the school in 2003.
The school was founded through a community organizing effort. It was a group of teachers and parents and youth that wanted to see a different kind of school. We're proud to be a public school. We're not a charter school. SFUSD has a diverse portfolio of high schools, and we're one of those.
There are three parts of the mission: social justice, independent thinkers, and community. The staff culture is really based on community as well as the student culture. We are a democratic, decision-making, consensus-building staff. The relationships that the teachers have with each other, as well as the relationships that the teachers have with us, the co-directors, are really based on a foundation of trust in that we all believe in our mission and vision of the school, and that really each teacher is treated as the professional that they are. The other thing on the student side is that community is integral to their daily lives here. We have an advisory program where students are in a class of about 14 to 18 students. They stay with the same teacher for 2 years, and that class is really like the family at school. They do talking circles, they talk about life, they talk about how school's going, they talk about how they can support each other, and it's really a place where students feel comfortable and the teacher feels like they're supporting the student not just in their academic classes, but really as a whole student.
One of the problems with being a school for social justice is defining what exactly that means. In our early years, we struggled with that, and we were confused about our definition. Our former co-director, Derek Smith, helped us really hone a much clearer definition of social justice, which is opposition to oppression, starting with, most importantly, internalized oppression, because that's the form that we see most often. And so for us, a school for social justice starts with values. We have our 4 values we call rich values: respect, integrity, courage, and humility. It spells out rich. The first thing a school for social justice looks like, in my opinion, is it looks like a place where there's an attention to values and to human dignity and tone and culture of respect. And not that there's never disrespect, but when there is, it gets addressed. It gets addressed by staff. It gets addressed by students. We're going to respect one another as a community. We're going to have integrity. And only then can you begin to think about being leaders for positive change in the world, which is sort of the second piece of social justice.
What does good teaching look like at June Jordan, and how have you been able to recruit and retain a diverse faculty?
Matt and I have been working on a framework called the Art of Social Justice Teaching, and it's got 6 pillars. It starts with the teacher being the warm demander, the classroom being a safe community, teacher as coach, the student as the intellectual, social justice curriculum, as well as knowledge of students. We want our school to be taught by folks that are from the community that understand where our students are coming from.
We've made it a priority. A lot of times people say, it's hard to recruit people of color, but if you first make it a priority and second, have clear systems and structures for teacher voice and empowerment so that when people are here, their voice gets to be heard and they get to be part of the decision-making process, then people want to stay. And then when you have a critical mass of people of color on a staff, it attracts other people of color. Naturally, people want to work in places where they're valued.
How do you navigate the external pressure to define success and accountability by standardized test scores?
So we look at accountability differently, too. We don't see ourselves as primarily accountable to bureaucratic rules imposed by the state. We see ourselves as primarily accountable to our students and their families and the communities that they come from. We believe that's a very high level of accountability. We make teaching public here. We invite parents to come in our classrooms anytime. We have had for the last 5 years the second highest 4-year college eligibility rate in the district. And for Black and Latino students, we've been number 1 for the past 5 years in terms of 4-year college eligibility. And so on the academic side, that's how we hold ourselves accountable.
We'll return to the directors later, but now let's hear from students: Fabiola Cermeno, Jamark Allen Henderson, Brandon Melendez, Renz Andrew Ignacio, and Nikki Whitaker. I started by asking them what social justice means at June Jordan.
Well, to me, it means that we have to be aware of what's going on around us in our community and actually be part of it and do something about it.
It's learning about the social injustices that happen in our communities, but also how to take action on it and also educate other people about it as well.
We talk about real world situations that everyone has to deal with, and it's not just like all hidden behind some difficult words in a textbook and then doing a worksheet and memorizing something.
Everything that we learn here applies to our daily lives.
If you walk into a classroom, the students are going to be talking more than the teacher. And I find that to be really powerful because we are teaching each other in that sense, and we're helping each other.
Tell me about relationships at June Jordan, especially across any differences like role, race, or sexual orientation.
When it comes to a student and teacher, you can have a really real relationship. They understand you and they don't judge you. I could be really honest about my feelings and my opinions about it. Like, I don't have to hold nothing in.
I have not seen like a lot of really big fights. It's because if there was a fight happening, the next day as a whole school, we would go to a town hall and we would talk about that fight. What could you do better the next time? So it's kind of like not closing the doors on people. We would say like, this is what happened wrong. They would say sorry to people who were hurt and like it wouldn't happen again.
There's not as many racial tensions here at this school as you might say in other schools where like there's this one ethnic group of students fighting against another ethnic group of students about something, and we're able to like get a better understanding of one person's culture through the curriculum and stuff like that, so we can better understand each other.
Throughout the years I've been here, I've known a lot of bisexual and gay students at our school, and that's all it is. We don't take it farther than that. If that's what they like, that's what they like, and who are we to judge them for that? And we don't make them feel any less of a student or a human.
Our whole thing is just like, as long as you feel safe in this like community, you'll be okay. We'll like protect you as like who you are, and that's your identity. We're not going to judge you, and that's part of our curriculum.
A lot of schools are very competitive, and students don't feel supported if they struggle academically. What's that like here?
There's a lot of different resources that we have at the school. Teachers leave their door open after school, and they have set times on when you can come in and ask them as many questions as you want and get any makeup work that you need. And you can have one-on-one time with them if you need it. And we have after-school program with study hall. We have tutors that go. So if a student's struggling at the school, they won't be struggling for long if they're looking for resources, because it's an endless amount of anything that you need, but the student just has to go out and find it.
Honestly, personally, I don't feel like no competition. It's your community, it's your society, it's the people that you're gonna graduate with, you know? I wanna see like everybody on stage with me. Like, no, it's about all succeeding, you know?
We don't really have a rank system like in other high schools. Here it's just like I don't feel the pressure at all to like be better than the next person. It's just like I'm working there at my own pace. I'm trying to graduate just as the other person.
It's definitely not competition at the school. It's just about getting better by yourself as you keep growing as a student and growing into a young adult. You're striving to better yourself.
At June Jordan, there is never one single person who ever got the title valedictorian at this school. So they keep that equal system and equity system in the same place always. When we graduate, no one's going to be valedictorian. No one. Everyone's going to be considered valedictorian, in my opinion.
Now back to co-directors Matt Alexander and Jessica Wong. I asked them how June Jordan addresses student behavior and how they're different than schools that impose harsh discipline policies that fuel the school-to-prison pipeline.
One dominant narrative is the sort of no excuses, lock them up and throw away the key approach. But in the Bay Area here, there's another dominant narrative, and in some other places as well, which is this misunderstood or misinterpreted restorative practices that is a lack of boundaries. And there's a real lack of accountability, a lack of safety. And I actually feel like that approach is feeding the school-to-prison pipeline just as much as the opposite one. And so I think we're trying to take an approach that is perhaps somewhere in the middle. We ask students to buy into our basic mission around community, social justice, independent thinkers. We don't expect that they won't make mistakes. We expect teenagers to make a lot of mistakes. And so our expectation is that they handle those mistakes with humility and with respect and understand that we're all on the same team here. And our job is to support them and hold them accountable when they make mistakes and provide opportunities for them to make amends. And their job is to take those opportunities and to challenge us if they feel like we're not doing it in the right way. But it shouldn't be an antagonistic process.
Through these ideas of restorative practices, the agreements about the challenges that the students have are coming from them, right? So sitting down with students and saying, what are your biggest challenges? What do you think consequences should be when you are going back to these bad habits that you have? And that when it happens, they know what's going to happen because they already are the ones that have articulated, because they've made agreements with themselves that these are the ways in which they want to change. And I think that as they feel supported with their teachers and their peers and their families, it really creates a path where they can choose.
It depends somewhat on the issue, but it's about helping young people to see it. And one of their roles as a peer is to stand up and challenge their peers when they mess up. So when our value of courage, which is one of our school values, we talk about courage in terms of face your fears and face your peers. We actually staged a fake fight. I called it a fight drill. It was like a conflict drill. Schools, we have fire drills all the time, but we never have fight drills, right? And a fight is much more likely to happen in a high school than a fire. I went to the drama club. They did this whole thing, and it was great. It was very realistic. When I watched the rehearsal, I said, whoa, let's just maybe tone it down. And they're like, no, it's got to be real. I was like, okay. So right before one of our assemblies, we were getting the kids quiet for our school-wide assembly, and these two girls in the drama club start shouting at each other in the aisle and just going off. And then we brought them back in. The girls who had been in the little fake fight, we brought to the front of the auditorium, and of course they hugged and stuff. And they led a debrief with everyone about why is fighting a problem, but more importantly, what do you do when people have a conflict and are angry and are about to fight to prevent it, right? And the big thing is separate them and all this stuff. And we talked about the issue of filming. So we had another kid in the drama club who filmed it, and so he got up and said, well, did you guys notice what I was doing and why was that bad? And it was brilliant because it sort of demystified the whole thing, and there was just sort of almost this collective sigh of relief. There was just this sense of, okay, now we know what to do. It's like, let's not pretend there's not going to be conflict. Let's not pretend that kids aren't being brainwashed by the media to want to fight when there's conflict. Let's just deal with it and have protocols to deal with it when it comes up. And so that's why we've been able to prevent it.
As we leave June Jordan, consider this comment by student Renz Andrew Ignacio. This is what he thinks listeners and policymakers need to better understand.
Fund schools instead of prisons. Let education liberate a lot of students, young people of color, everyone. Try to change the curriculum to a better understanding of the real world. Not a lot of people who are coming out of high school and college, they don't really understand how the system works anymore. They just go with the flow. They ride with the stereotype of their ethnic background. Shed light to what really needs to be there.
Let's return to where we began. Here are some final thoughts from Dr. Derek Smith about the competing educational paradigms being debated throughout the country.
The corporatization of the educational system goes along with the corporatization of our lives overall. Situated in that, you end up with this normalization of a corporatized, mechanistic worldview to supplant what we might recognize as a more humane and humanized viewpoint. And so we create good humans by making them competitive humans. We create good humans by inserting necessary data into those humans, and that becomes a good, productive human. You have these folks buying into this idea that I want production, I want results, and they have to be measured in this way. Social justice is different. I believe that history is actually older. If you imagine the pursuit of social justice as the manifestation and execution of strategies that historically were used to resist oppression. That is not how social justice is currently discussed in education. Social justice, as it is in education, is discussed as fairness and equity, access to resources, and for many, the attempt to close achievement and discipline gaps. Most educators are not referring to a model, right? When they're talking about social justice, a model, a trajectory to attain it, which then leaves them open to a corporatization of social justice education. So they start looking for who has the best package to sell for this particular issue of closing the achievement gap. What company can I buy this curriculum from? And I believe that that's what this struggle is. It is not to eliminate technology. It's not to get rid of data and assessment on numerical terms. It's not about that at all. It's about the balance, and it's about staying committed to developing a person that at 28, at 35, at 42 can look at a document come across their desk that hits profit against human well-being, and knowing that they will make the right and courageous decision and take the risk. That's what this struggle is about.
Let's leave it there for today. Very few of us went to social justice schools, so we carry many unconscious assumptions about what it means to do school based on our own limited experiences. Even those of us who support social justice education often suffer from a poverty of imagination about what it could look like, sound like, and feel like. Next week, we'll explore a school with a different approach to social justice education, Matt West High School in Oakland. Many thanks to today's guests for sharing their deep insights and wisdom. Check out the Flashpoints website at flashpoints.net to hear all the programs and the full interviews used to make them. For Flashpoints on Pacifica Radio, I'm Ken Yale. The executive producer of Flashpoints is Dennis Bernstein. Technical director is Mike Biggz.